Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof has announced he's stepping down just hours after far-right leader Geert Wilders quit the coalition government. Wilders wanted what he called the strictest asylum policy ever. The coalition partners refused to sign up to his plans. Schoof says he regrets Wilders' decision, calling it unnecessary. And on that last point, let's cross to Dominic Kane, joining us from the Netherlands. He's been covering all of this. So, Dominic, far-right firebrand Geert Wilders has left office, collapsing the ruling coalition, and now the Prime Minister has resigned. What happens now?
Well, we know that Mr. Schoof will, as it were, stay in office in a caretaker guise, pending new elections, which the suggestion is will be held at some point either in the very late summer or the early autumn of this year. And so it means that the government then is, as it were, in a caretaker guise, not really in power so much as just in office, so that the essential elements of government will continue, the political drive behind it will not. And so for things such as there is a NATO summit coming up in the Netherlands very soon, in the next few weeks, that will take place. Dutch government officials, ministers who would have taken part in it, who weren't in Wilders' party, well, they will go and they will represent their country at that summit. But as I say, the essence, the driving force behind the government now, with the PVV, that's Wilders' party, the Party voor de Vrijheid, the Freedom Party, with them no longer in the government, and given that they were the largest party in Parliament and therefore in the government, then it means that, as I say, the driving force has gone from it, and they clearly will be criticising from what will now be the opposition benches in the Tweede Kamer, in the second chamber, that is the Dutch Parliament. That is how things now look to be, although obviously there is a great deal of conversations going on behind the scenes between the relevant parties about what could be cobbled together. But the upshot of it is an election, a snap election, this autumn, not in 2028 when it was supposed to be happening, the next one, that is.
And Dominic, I wonder if you can help us understand why we think Geert Wilders has done this. He's threatened to do this before over other issues, but he's finally followed through, citing disagreements over immigration policy. But is there something more strategic, particularly when it comes to a future possible election?
Well, that is the very interesting aspect here, because he says that it's to do with immigration and the failure of the other parties to intensify, to entrench further this idea of a harsh immigration regime. Let's be clear, Mr. Wilders has said that he would like to see Dutch soldiers patrolling the Dutch border, turning back asylum seekers, all asylum seekers, which would be a flagrant breach of EU law, specifically of the Dublin regulations that govern how and when EU states can deny entry to asylum seekers and that sort of thing. The other aspect of this, which is interesting, there are those who say this is a power grab by Mr. Wilders. He wanted more power. And yet, a glance at the opinion polls, one taken relatively recently, just a few days ago, suggests that his party has dropped from 26% there or thereabouts, where it was several years ago, where it was there or thereabouts for the general election when it came first the last time around. It has dropped down to around 20%, with two other parties that would vie for first place with Mr. Wilders. So if he was looking to precipitate, to bring forward, to accelerate an election, then he will be doing so in an electoral background where the opinion polls aren't really that advantageous for his party. So that is the thought that's going here. And it's interesting, that point, because there are some voices in Dutch politics who suggest that what Wilders might have done accidentally is to make it easier for parties of the left, perhaps, to do better in an election campaign. But there's lots of, it must be said, there's a degree of flux, as it were, fluidity going on right now, with lots of people positioning themselves. A, what are they going to do about this caretaker government? And then B, how do they position themselves electorally for the coming poll in the autumn?
Yeah, it sounds like a political gamble for Geert Wilders, but we do know, of course, that it looks like political uncertainty in the short term, at least, in Dutch politics. Dominic, many thanks for that. Dominic Kane.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.